Hello, everyone, once again. Now we are here for a very interesting masterclass of Joanna Mamczur. She is the certified attorney at law advocate with over 15 years of professional experience, admitted to the Warsaw Bar of Advocates in Poland, founder of Mamczur Law Firm, also a frequent speaker and participant at international conferences. And currently, Joanna is national president of GCI Poland. She's gonna perform with her roadmap for developing business in a new country, common challenges. The floor is yours, Joanna.
Thank you, Olga, for the very warm introduction, and thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm really happy to be with you here today, and welcome to the masterclass about developing business internationally from the legal perspective. As Olga mentioned, I have been a lawyer for over 15 years, and throughout this time, I have seen many ways of doing business and also going international. There are really not two same ways for companies to do this process. Everything depends on the unique business model and the opportunities that you're looking for and your very reason and goal for developing the business. So let me share with you my slides, which will help you understand a bit better the entire process. You should be now seeing the roadmap for developing business in the new country and the indication of common challenges. This is the process that I will take you through within the next minutes. Obviously, it's a very brief overview of the important aspects. I do encourage you to follow up with me through social media or directly via email. And if you do have any questions, I encourage you to stay till the last slides of this presentation, because there is a little surprise at the end that will hopefully also help you develop your business and get the idea how to do it properly and how to structure the process. Developing a business in another country is actually a journey. It's a way of preparing yourself and planning the entire expansion or initiating the business in a new country, which needs to take into account several aspects, including local culture, language that will be used for this kind of development, either local or international languages used, and the growth potential that you can see, which actually is the main reason for you to go to another country. And obviously, legal regulations. If you have already been running your business, you have probably seen that legal regulations are very often one of the main factors that you should be taking into account when planning the development in a new region, because they might either encourage you to go to a certain country and choose a specific solution, or they might actually block this possibility because of several costs, administrative procedures, and the time that would be slowing down your business. So we will start with the very general introduction of the process management for this kind of expansion. As you will see over this talk, going international is a process. It's a project that needs to be planned. It needs to be set in a specific time frame and has to define the objectives for the growth and for the development. In order to see the success in the end of the day, at the end of your journey, you need to know why you're going to the journey. And it's very important for you to choose also the trustworthy partners that can guide you through that process and help you with developing your business on the local level, who can connect you to the local network and explain to you how to really structure the process, taking into consideration all the local features that may impact your business sooner or later. Amongst those elements, you will see the steps of development that you plan for yourself, taking into account all the procedures from legal perspective, operational, meaning your own processes in the company, including decision-making processes, and the financing that is available for making this happen. Everything needs to be grounded in a specific time frame, which shows you how long the process will take and how much this entire process will cost, what kind of benefits you will get out of this, meaning better turnover, better quality products, lower costs, or better quality relationships that will help to develop your business in the long run. While within project management, you need to also include the key decisions on structures and business model, which I will also touch upon later on during this presentation. You need to know what kind of resources you have. How qualified are your people? Do you need to get any support from outside? And can you afford certain development, or what the resources you need to organize in order to make this development happen? The budget needs to be allocated in terms of the planned stages of the development, the decisions that you want to take, and the resources and the roles that you assign to certain project. Obviously, when planning a project, you need to also plan for what could happen if there is a mistake, if there's anything that is hard to predict and it's a risk for making the project happen. Can you afford taking the risk, or how can you address this risk when it really materializes? And as a classical example of this kind of risk, we can quote obviously the pandemic, which we are seeing now, which it was just a few years ago, the risk that you would find in legal documents, but you would see it as very unlikely. And yet it did materialize. If a company was prepared for it, it knows how to adjust. Otherwise, you need to be agile and adjust as you go, which can also be a part of project management. So going back to our initial plan, we will now go through the legal checklist, touch briefly upon the business aspect, and then focus on the practical aspects of how to make the expansion possible with the simplified steps. With any development in another country, you will find a number of legal aspects that you need to take into account. And I will guide you through the very simplified list, which I prepared specifically for this session, which will give you the overview of the questions and aspects that you should be consulting within your team or externally with the consultants that you work on the project with. Amongst the corporate issues that are included in the 3 C's, so corporate compliance and customers, you will find the necessity to structure your business and your development properly for the future, which means that you know what kind of company you want to found and why you are choosing a specific type of company, how you want to develop the relationships within the company amongst the shareholders. So who is bringing how much money, know-how, who is taking away the money in exchange for certain assets that they bring or the know-how. Who has voting rights? Is anyone who is a privileged shareholder or anyone that may not vote, however, they do keep the rights to dividends. Everything is covered by corporate structures, and every country will have its own peculiarities in terms of which issues you should discuss in more detail when opening a company. Obviously, when you're opening the business, you also need to know exactly what types of activities you want to conduct within that business. In many countries, when you are registering a new business, you will be seeing an official list of the activities that fall officially under the specific categories, which can be, for example, wholesales, retail sales. Sometimes it's even more specific, for example, retail sales of cars or cosmetics or pharmaceuticals, energy trading, and so on and so forth. So again, in order to define the scope of business, you will want to consult locally what are the requirements and the possible options, and then you will reflect this scope of the business in your business model first, and then you will also include it in the documents. As a tip, I will say that the legal documents are always coming after the business decisions. So first, you're making the decision how you want to operate and structure your business, and then this information is reflected in the legal documents and registration, rather than the other way around. This way, you will know that you're coming closer to your actual business objectives. In terms of other corporate issues, you will want to look at the capital structure if you want to bring money into your company through shareholders, or maybe take loans or public financing. Again, every country will have a different variety of options, but typically you will have the financing by equity, so money that is brought into company by shareholders, or the external financing, which is usually loans and credits. In terms of organizational structures, you will want to look at the policies, the departments in your company, employees that you recruit, how you recruit them, and how you allocate them to your company. Obviously, you will also want to decide on the management structure. Is it the company that is managed centrally? Or maybe do you want your company to be managed by your employees or the local representatives that report to you? This was also touched upon in previous sessions, so I hope that you can also refer to the cultural aspects that our friend Karl Johan from Norway was also mentioning before. Obviously, if you're doing cross-border business, you will have a number of requirements as well. By cross-border business, I mean a business done by one company in another country. So having a business partner outside of your country of registration, sometimes you might have the rules that are making it easier. For example, in European Union, we have the so-called European passport, which enables you to go, for example, from Poland to Germany with your business, typically without additional registrations and licenses, obviously depending also sometimes on the business. However, if you want to trade with countries from outside of European Union, then there are additional requirements that need to be fulfilled. So a tip for you, if you're from outside of European Union and you want to do business in Europe, it's really smart to base your representative office, your registered company in one of the European countries, and then develop the business with the European Union, as it opens up the European market in a very, very significant way. And obviously, when you're running a business internationally, you always need to plan for the risks and the liabilities. Liability is the consequence of anything which goes wrong, which goes against the contracts, against the laws, and that could have the financial consequence for your business or for the management of the company. The next part of the CCC rule for legal checklist is compliance, which is a very broad term, but to put it very simply, is how your company adapts to the local market and whether or not your business complies with the local laws. This will include adapting the documentation that you use, applying for required permits and licenses, especially if you're in a regulated market. So for example, banking and finance, fintech, securities, investment markets, medical market, medtech, and pharmaceuticals. There's are typical examples where you need to double check if your procedures and documentations are actually in line with the public laws. In Europe, we also have the rule for keeping the competition fair. It's, again, a very complex topic. However, it boils down to keeping up with certain rules of do's and don'ts in the pricing policies, in making agreements among bigger companies so that you do not have the monopole over a certain market. And also, in certain aspects, you need to report your activities to the supervisory bodies in the countries where you operate. And if you do not comply with the laws, you will be held responsible, which may mean financial sanctions, sometimes administrative sanctions, bans on certain types of activities, or sometimes the sanctions go even towards the penalty law. But hopefully, if you're keeping the basic compliance rules, this will be the last consequence to take into consideration, but it's important to know about it. In terms of the final CCC rule, you will see customers, which means that you will need to analyze on which kind of market you are operating and whether or not there are specific requirements for addressing your offer to the clients that fall within the scope of your business. Those can be consumers, so physical individuals who are buying your products in a store, online, or are getting your services directly for themselves in their private lives, or those can be companies that are buying your services or products as business partners. For each of those types of customers, you will again have different sets of rules. However, for all of those people, you will need to make sure that you're providing the basic security for communication. In Europe, again, it's very important to take care of personal data protection and cybersecurity. So whenever you're dealing with the personal data of people from European Union, you need to make sure that you're also compliant with the GDPR, which is the general regulation on personal data protection. And in terms of communication, you will also have a set of rules which tell you what you are allowed to tell to your customers, in what way. You for sure may not deceive the customers, and you will need to have the procedures for the claims management in order to make sure that your clients are happy with the contracts are fulfilled. Going quickly through the other aspects of business reports, there is the research that you need to do, which I've mentioned before, so that you understand why you're making a decision on specific business development. And then through the case study, I would like to very briefly tell you how to approach the international development. Several years ago, we had clients who came to us saying, hello, we were just informed that it really makes sense to open a company in another country because they have good solutions for IP laws. And we want to go there. Can you help us open the business there? However, the problem was that they didn't really know why they were making this kind of decision and why they were making this kind of request. The lesson from this was that if they didn't decide why exactly they want to go to another country, they weren't ready for the costs that go along. They weren't ready for having someone from the management being physically in that company. They didn't know what happens if they do not comply with the local requirements of having a representative over there. Will they actually be able to benefit from all the good aspects of being registered there rather than in Poland? So in this case, we have noticed that they didn't really analyze the reasons for going international. And that's why we said, you know what, in your case, you are a startup and really it doesn't really make much sense for you to go and make such an investment of time and money and the other resources. Why don't you just stay locally, and this will also address the aspects that you have in mind. And this is what they did. So the lesson is choose a tailored solution for your business and know why exactly you want to go to a specific country, and do you know what are the consequences in terms of time and money that will be triggered by your specific decision. So it all comes to business structuring. You will want to take into account several issues that are coming together as a business model, and the typical issues for developing business have been already touched upon before. You will need to understand why you are choosing a certain business model, who you are as a business, and are you developing a completely new business, or do you want to scale up and maybe look for business partners, take over an existing company, and what kind of customers you will be working with. So all these aspects will impact for sure your operations in the future, and I really encourage you to speak openly about those issues with the lawyer that is active locally and other financial and business consultants that you can encounter on your way. So this comes to going international in the very, very brief overview. I know that there might be some questions from you, so I will stop in a moment right here. Just wanted to tell you that if you would like to learn more, you can also go to the website that you can see here on the left bottom corner. And if you use the code JCI Business, you can join the more advanced session for free if you register by tomorrow. So I'm happy to also answer your questions directly.
Thank you so much, Joanna. Well, we have 2 minutes left and two very interesting questions. How will you manage the profit from the company registered abroad, and how to take the money back to your home country without being double taxed? If possible, can you briefly answer in 2 minutes?
This question is so complex, we will not be able to go through it within 2 minutes that we have. For sure, there is a number of options for structuring this, and depending if you're a one-person company that is founding a corporation in another country, or you get a group of shareholders, you will be able to take the profits through the local structures of combination of companies. Sometimes, if it's a one-person company, you can pay yourself as a person who is managing the company, which typically, depending on the country, will not be subject to the additional taxation. But always look at the treaties on the double taxation between the countries, and that's why we need more specific information to go into detail.
Thank you so much, Joanna. That was a very interesting speech, and please join the link that she provided, and see you later for the more detailed masterclass. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.